let's go ahead and get started. We have a copy of the purchase contract for everybody. And this is what's amazing, is how technology has changed our lives, right?
That's for sure.
Just in the last 10 years, you know, my first several years, I met people all over the place to sign contracts. You know, at that Denny's at 83rd and Bell was my office for anybody who was in from out of town. And we meet at 9 o'clock at night because it's one of the few places that was open, you know, and you could just have coffee and do stuff. And I hate to say it, but technology has definitely alienated ourselves from being able to know the contract in and out and being able to actually communicate the ins and outs of the contract to our clients. And as agents, some of the biggest not boundaries, but some of the biggest walls we have to overcome are, well, that's actually a great question. Let's actually start there. So, forgive me, kind of ignorant question. How many contracts have you written? 2? Okay, perfect. Good start. All right, and
I have probably done maybe more.
Yeah. If you add in all the, how many, sometimes you'll have one client put out 10 offers, you know.
Just want to keep you in practice.
Exactly, yeah, there's lots of,
Well, I have to honestly say, I
5 or 6.
there you go, okay, cool, yeah. They're all experienced, that's for sure. If only they all got accepted, that'd be awesome. So.
Some of them, the offer was not accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. And Fred, I know you have a lot of like commercial, but when it comes to residential.
Yeah, when it comes to residential, I don't think I've done more than 5, 6.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we have good starts. Here we go. So 2 different aspects. Okay. It's hard sometimes as agents because I know I take for granted all my acronyms and they flow like water sometimes. You know, like please sign the Binzer. What's a Binzer? You know, spuds, potatoes. What? You know, like what? So it's hard, right? So let's look at it. If you were a buyer and you found a home, what are the biggest concerns, worries you might have moving forward? Condition of the home, absolutely. Yeah. Am I gonna buy a lemon? Is it gonna fall apart? Yeah.
And then what is, if I put an offer, you know, how is this going to appraise?
The appraisal, is it worth what I'm gonna put out? That's a lot of money. Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely.
Can we give that buyer a comfort level by explaining the Binzer and the spuds?
Yep, we're gonna get to that. Absolutely. So what are some other concerns you might think? As far as, condition,
Closing costs,
price,
and then what is it?
how much is it gonna cost to close?
me?
Does it cost any money
Do
to
I-
write an offer?
Yeah.
There's a
What
lot of
about
people
the
that don't know.
pre-qual? You know, do I have a loan? Am I? Yeah.
Okay, am I qualified? Yeah. A lot of people think, oh, I'm okay and I don't need it, and then they find out, right?
Yeah.
So, but up front, like the biggest concern, because it's to buy a home and to make that decision to actually write an offer and say, I'm gonna do this. That's a big undertaking, which most people are gonna do 5 times in their lifetime, maybe. And as an agent, then, what do you think our role is pertaining to that buyer at this moment?
Well, first of all, Dan, hopefully answer their questions.
Okay.
But, you know, you're going to be the go-to person throughout the entire process.
Yeah. To make them feel comfortable, to make them feel safe that you are making the right decision. You're going to be taken care of. This is a safe decision for you. You don't need to stress or worry because we're going to go through this together. Yeah, this is a big decision and we're going to make sure you are fully protected along the way. Right?
Yeah.
If I know that, yes, I understand you're worried about the appraisal. That's one of your protections. Your condition? guess what? You get 10 days to check out the home risk-free, no problem. If we find out, let's pray that the home is good. You know, it appears to be great. Obviously, we wouldn't be writing an offer. But just in case we find out something, we'll be able to cancel, get your earnest money back, no problem. How's that sound?
That would be a concern of a buyer.
Absolutely, right?
No concern.
So that is you knowing your contract inside and out.
Very true.
So this is what we really want to go through tonight to make sure that finding the right home is easy. They'll walk into it and fall in love. That's what they do. You know, they'll walk into 9 and be like, I'm not sure. They'll think they love it, but when they walk into the right home, you know, they know. You know, it's like, oh my, this is it. This is the one, you know? It's like, great. Well, now let's get the job done. This is when my stress kicks in. You know, let's do this.
I think the other thing too is getting them pre-qualified correctly.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin alluded to that. There's, you know, there's a pre-qual and then there's a pre-qual, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, hopefully by the time we got to this point, they will have already spoken to the lender, you know, as kind of a thing, right?
Well, we can help them with that though.
Absolutely.
I'm already recommending people to Kevin, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
And you got one of my guys today, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this not where, because is it technically, we're not allowed to take them out looking at homes until they are pre-qualified and we have that pre-qual?
Technically, we're supposed to be taking qualified prospects. We're not supposed to take just anybody. We're supposed to be taking qualified. That's exactly it. Basically a qualified prospect.
No tire kickers.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has no job, no anything, then obviously we're not supposed to take them inside somebody else's home for no reason. You know, so it's kind of that kind of thing underlying. There's not a rule that you have to have a written pre-qualification to take somebody in. If an owner says that, then absolutely. They can, any owner can write in there saying, I want only pre-qualified people. Good luck showing a $3 million home to somebody without sending a proof of funds.
Okay.
At that moment, there's certainly, and it's
Well,
not,
the seller needs to know that they're going to perform.
yeah. You know, not everybody can qualify for a $3 million home, and it's not out of line for them to say, show me your cash.
But that's why it's, like you said, I think when we walk through the door, I am bringing somebody that is seriously
Yeah.
considering the possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and there's strategy involved with that. So to briefly touch on that one, either what percent or what amount of people go with, or shoot, what's the best way to ask this question? What percent of people go with the first agent they talk to?
Probably the good majority of them.
Absolutely. Okay.
So I'm going to say 75%.
80% of the people go with the first agent they see. Okay, it's not necessarily the first person they talk to, it's the first person they see face to face. Okay? So, all things being equal, 20-minute drive, I wouldn't necessarily drive an hour each way, but would it be worthwhile to show one home to one person one time to get that face-to-face meeting to cinch them as a client?
So is this why, even if I might know that a home is under contract, to say, meet me at this place, and then to say, I just found out, or, you know, this home is now under contract, but there are
I brought a few more with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not necessarily lying to them. You're doing them a service too, because you're bringing other homes, and homes go under contract daily. I've shown too many homes thinking it was available to find out it wasn't. You know, that's why you try to get a hold of the agent before showing, but you can't every time. So, all right. So yeah, definitely. Same thing when you get when you have a listing. All of our leads. That's why I tell you guys, don't. Less is more. If you get one of our leads for one of our listings, hey, pretend you're my client, okay, or the lead I got on the phone. Okay, ring ring.
Hello.
Hi, is this Fred?
Yes.
Hey, Fred. This is Josh over here at Breakthrough Real Estate. How are you today?
I'm doing just great. How are you?
Oh, great, sir. Great, sir. Thank you for asking. Hey, thank you so much for inquiring about my listing there on Morning Glory. It is an awesome home. Did you see that it has a pool and a 3-car garage?
Yes, I did. That's one of the reasons why I'm calling.
Yeah, isn't that great? Hey, are you free either today or tomorrow morning to go take a look at it?
What time?
What time works for you? Was it like 9 o'clock tomorrow morning?
I prefer 4 in the morning.
I can make that happen. You know, but literally it's that simple. So-and-so with so-and-so, thank you for inquiring. It's an awesome home, fantastic home, gorgeous home, cute home, it's got a pool, whatever cute feature it is, that quick selling point. And then ask them for the showing. About a third of the time, you'll get the showing. Simple as that. And then you, as politely and quickly as possible, get off the phone.
Yeah, they didn't expect that calling in, you know, so you have to bring it out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's one of the best things in the world. That is one of the best scripts. That's where listing leads, any online home advertisement. So if you get anybody inquiring about any particular home, that's the way to handle it. Okay? There's the secret. So, okay. So, let's go ahead and, let me see what were some of my other questions here. Oh, okay. So, we talked about some of the biggest concerns a buyer may have. Condition, price, is it going to appraise? What's the process? What's the loan process? They have a lot of concerns. What's wonderful about the Arizona purchase contract, that's what you can fall back on and use the past as our selling point. Okay? We were the Wild West. A lot of the crap and laws that are in place around the world, or around the country, are because of Arizona.
40-acre parcels.
Yeah, this is my property. Yeah, I'll take your check, and I'll take your check, and I'll take your check. Oh, jeez. So anyway, because of every single one of those, there are now buyer protections in place. And that makes Arizona's purchase contract, one of the most buyer-friendly contracts.
And it's stronger too.
You could just have so much confidence in that. And that can help you make your buyers feel comfortable, protected, and at ease placing the offer on the home.
And this is why too, when we give them the buyer advisory, to say, you know, that Arizona has all of these websites, so if you have any questions.
That inspection period and everything that goes along with it is priceless. It's priceless. It really is. Okay, so now that we talked about the buyers as agents, what are our concerns then? Okay, such as.
Well, now the time frame.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm to read it, I think.
Well, that's like I kind of alluded to. That's when, like, our stress comes in, right? When my client finds the home they want, that's when I officially kick into gear because my job's not complete until we either close on this, or as long as they continue to want this home and everything falls in line, that's my job, is to get them that home. You know what I mean? So there's a few steps and hurdles along the way. So from the time they tell me they want the home to the time we get the offer submitted, I hate that time because lots can happen.
Yeah.
Right? So we're gonna.
Everything's up in the air yet. It's not solid.
Yep. Okay.
They made their decision, but the seller hasn't made theirs.
Right. Comps. What is the fair price for this home?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how are we going to do that? We need to get this figured out too, right? List price means nothing, as we've kind of talked about many a times. It could be way too high, it could be too low, it could be perfect. You know, there's a reason some homes stay on the market for a year and never sell. There's a reason other homes sell with 25 offers on them. Okay? So it's all about the market, comps. So you have that portion, right? We're not going to really dig into that because I really just want to get into the contract, right? But starting from scratch, time is of the essence. My standard time, literally, if they see the home at 11 o'clock in the morning, I will have comps to them by, as soon as I get back to the office, within an hour. We will have a conversation, hopefully within an hour or two, about said comps and review them to figure out what our fair offer will be. There's a lot of strategy in talking to people to determine that, right? How much they're motivated, what their reasoning is. An investor, no emotional ties, doesn't really care. They're in it for the money, so they're gonna put out an offer. A person who fell in love with this home and has looked at 1,000 homes and has determined that I'm gonna get this home, should probably put in a slightly stronger offer than the investor would, hypothetically speaking. You know what I mean? And they're not necessarily out of line, but An investor can put out 10 offers, not care. You know, oh dang, we lost this one. Next, you know, let's find the right one. As opposed to the emotional buyer who's finding their home for the next 20 years, they worked hard to find that home. We need to work hard to find what is a good offer. You know, and every person's going to be a little different. Some owners are going to want to play hardball. Other owners are going to say, I don't care, get me this home, I will pay whatever it takes. You know, it's up to us to kind of finagle all of that. So comps classes are a whole different thing, and that's where I recommend, if you can, take Russell Shaw's comps class. His is the best. I'm not sure if he's still putting it on, but I'm not joking. His is one of the best when it comes to what is a fair value for a home, or what is the proper price to list a home at. Oh, jeez. The guy is brilliant. There's a reason. Yeah. So, anyway.
Does he teach at his office or what?
I don't know anymore. I actually, when Bob and I saw him last, he actually was like at a high school. We were like actually in a real classroom. I wasn't sure if it might have been a college maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we were in like a legit classroom.
Okay, how much should we rely on the listing agent's price?
This is where the comps come in.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
It fully depends on how much they align with the comps you run.
So say we have 3 or 4 properties that we're going to show this person. Should we have already done that pre-homework in comping those out?
It depends on the client. Because, for example, the first time I meet somebody, if they narrow it down to 4 or 5, I will, and if I have time, I'll absolutely run the comps. Because the sooner you can start doing the legwork on market knowledge and where the market's at, the better you can do it. You know, if you know your average home selling at 98, 99%, it might be worthwhile to bring a set of comps with you to show people what's going for. Okay? Just the more knowledge they have as early on, it's paved the way. Let's just say that.
Not only that, I think it locks you in with them that you're doing a good job.
Oh yeah, yeah. I do that over a lot of the other buyer fluff. You know, there's a lot of other crap people bring, but
Yeah,
I think that's valuable. Yeah, yeah. Like Cesare and them when they came back this last time, because I knew that this home was a good value for this neighborhood, and this home was listed at like 284. The average sale in that neighborhood was 360. So I brought those comps so they knew that this home was probably going to go fast and was probably going to go close to asking price.
RPR ties back into MLS to get comps, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so they found the home, we determined what we want to do, okay? So let's go ahead and do that really fast, and just for because, where's my MLS here?
Excuse me.
Let's pick a cool home. This is where it's fun to do these classes. Okay.
Get more weather in tomorrow too.
Yeah, did you see that it was like 10 degrees warmer today, and
Not-
then,
Not this morning, no. Did
No.
you see
It
this
was
morning?
very cold,
Oh,
but
man.
very fast it popped up to the 70s.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
wouldn't this be nice? Let's see here. What do we think the most expensive home in the MLS is right now? Let's start off at 15 million and go up.
22 million.
Is it?
6.
So there's 6 over 15 million.
Sheesh.
26 million. All right, that's the home we're going to offer on tonight.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and grab a pen.
Alright, so the premise address is 108
Okay,
Ford.
so up front you'll notice the checklist. Okay, this actually walks them through so many things. So this is, for example, to meet what you were talking about, Fred. Number 5, apply for your home loan now if you have not done so already, and provide your lender with requested information. Okay, so it tells them right there, it's responsible to make sure that you and your lender follow the timeline requirements, section 2, and that you're no longer defer the blah, 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 blah. So right here on the front, it kind of helps you out as far as everything they're going to need, okay? So a lot of people actually kind of go through, keep this aside, okay? If you were in person, you could actually take this aside and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is our checklist. So by the time we're through our offer, make sure we've covered all of these items, okay? Right? So that's what a lot of people do. All right, so let's go ahead and skip, turn page. Now, buyer and seller, okay? Sometimes people say seller of record when you don't quite know who the seller is, if it's company, whatever. You're not expected to be the expert on the seller themselves, okay? So don't freak out about the details, okay? If it's Barbara's trust, it's Barbara's trust. It's not your thing. That's why on the last, you're not expected to know their phone number, their address, all that fun, right? That's not your job, okay? What are they buying? The property, right? So the big thing that you're gonna do is, okay, so let's say buyer, let's call him, let's see here. Who's our client? Bob Smith?
Yeah.
Just come up with whoever you like.
And we'll just say seller of record.
Okay, yeah.
Although,
Well, no,
you
you
know,
don't
really
have-
fast, you go into the monsoon.
Exactly.
And at least you have the name right then and there of,
MLS and Monsoon,
Yeah.
basically all you need to write an
Yeah.
offer. Absolutely. Okay, so right here we've got William Gallagher and Joanne stands blah blah blah. Not sure, you know, for the video we should say all this stuff, but okay. So if you can, put them both down.
William Gallagher and who?
And then Joanne Stansfield. Okay. All right. So premises address. This is what's most important, and you want to make sure that this lines up with the legal description. The two of them are very important. Okay. So premises address, we've got 10814 East Heritage Court. That would be in Scottsdale, Maricopa. And this is obviously, you're going to see why the template comes in handy. Okay, assessor's number,
excuse me.
right?
We can't
Right
rely
here.
on the assessor number to be legal description either. That's
Oh.
just a parcel number.
Exactly.
But at least you
Well,
have
it's
that.
everything. It's the
But it's-
book page. It's the book page and everything. But down here, so you got subdivision, which is part of it, but the legal description right there. Okay.
So lot 1610,
1610.
property assemblage.
How can you see that far? That's so small. I can't
My
see.
trifocal, so thank goodness.
Property assemblage lot. And you're going to see that the legal description in some cases is quite short. In other cases, it will fill up all of those lines.
Yes. But you can get that off of the tax record, right?
Yeah, Monsoon is our portal into the tax records, to the county assessor, basically. What was it before? Now see, now I'm really getting old. Before,
There's assessors.
well, there was one before, and they were really, really good too. Monsoon is actually, I believe, and I may be wrong again, I talk a lot, I believe the Realtor Party or the National Association of Realtors, or Arizona Association of Realtors actually has a hand in owning Monsoon.
Oh, so they had another way of linking into
Yeah.
the tax record?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
always
this is
went right
their,
through the tax
part of
record.
our dues that we pay is actually for Monsoon, which is actually owned by one of our things that we probably belong to. Yeah. That was one of the conflicts when they got rid of the other one, because we thought that it wasn't necessarily as good, and so it didn't quite make sense at that moment.
Did
Yeah.
you hear about Weimar
And
going with East Mesa?
yes, yeah. Are you gonna go to any of the third holding between now and like March? Well, like March 5th and 15th, they're gonna be holding a bunch of things to
You mean
tell
for
us
us to
about the
complain
merging
or what?
something like that. So I
I'd
don't
like
think it's
to
bad.
find out
I don't
exactly
care.
what more it
Yeah.
covers, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, so here's one of the things that you will want to do to make sure that, because we do make mistakes, okay? And any of the parts that are most important, such as making sure they're buying the right address, I would definitely have your clients double check, okay? And when in doubt, I make jokes about stuff a lot, okay? I find the more people are laughing, the more they kind of feel comfortable and whatnot. So I flat out say that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, as you know, you're buying a home. Now, God forbid you buy the wrong home. And historically speaking, there have been people that have cross numbers between the assessor, address, and description.
Or forgot to
and
add the
they
lot
actually-
next door to it.
They either,
Yes.
well, forget lot numbers,
Mhm.
or they actually bought the wrong property
Yeah.
because they thought it was this address and that was actually this address.
But the buyer at their mentality can only relate to an address.
Yeah,
They can't relate to description, you know, and parcel number at that point.
exactly. So that comes back to, here's the offer, here's the monsoon, or your stuff. And back in the day, I would have the MLS printout and then the tax printout. I would have them both. And I said, please, please, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, make sure we're buying the right property. And have
Good
them
idea.
double check it, okay?
Good idea.
Address, assessor number, legal description, please make sure they match, okay?
There again, you're reinforcing your knowledge about what you're doing with that buyer.
Exactly, okay? So, this is a $26 million home. I think we should offer them 25, well, let's say 2.5 million. What do you think is fair?
I was thinking 200,000.
200,000?
Wait a minute, you're going.
I don't think that's
on
insulting.
20 acres.
Okay,
26 million.
$999,099.99.
So how about 24,599?
Let's offer whatever you guys feel comfortable.
We're just playing anyway.
Yep, I'm gonna buy it for $1.
His pocket went a little bit.
Let's say, I'm gonna say 19.9.
1,500,000. There's no home in worth anymore.
Okay, I'm gonna give them $500 in earnest money, because that should be enough.
500. You're not going to get an acceptable offer.
I don't think they're gonna accept my offer, no.
I don't think
Unless-
so.
Unless they're
But I
highly
am,
motivated.
I'm gonna put down 25,000.
Okay, so purchase price is obviously gonna be whatever they decide with your clients, right? Earnest money, what's the general we have on earnest money?
1%.
1%, perfect, okay? And so down payment, now here's the thing, earnest money, you could write in a bunch of different stuff there, okay? Some people say check, wired. I don't necessarily tell them that because that's below. I just tell them it's gonna be delivered within 24 or 48 hours. If it's a weekend, I will say will be delivered on Monday, or whatever it might be. So your earnest money, you can put a variety of stuff. See, right there I say deposited with title within 48 hours. That's what I have naturally in there, okay? So you definitely want to put something in, but it could be a variety. Wire to title, personal check delivered to title, deposited within 48 hours, whatever, something like that, okay? Now number 12, here's why nothing's written in. Because if you have a cash buyer, the next step is cash at closing. If you're financing, you now have a down payment and then the amount that they're going to finance. So if you're a cash buyer, you would literally just put in the difference right there. And then just say cash at closing, cash at COE, something like that. If it's the financed amount, you would deduct the earnest deposit. So let's say they're going to put a total down payment of $20,000, okay? And they're putting a $2,500 deposit down. Then the rest of the down payment would be $17,500. Okay, so it would be on line 13. You would put $17,500 down payment at close of escrow, something like that.
Line 12 will always state the loan.
If there is a loan,
If there is a
or
loan.
it'll be just the cash difference if it's a cash sale. That's it, because that would be the final step. Or if you're going to put two different deposits down, because let's say at 12 you have a deposit after the inspection period, and then line 13 can be cash at closing.
Cash at closing.
You know,
Or can
Yeah.
12 be like the cash, and what was the phrase you said, because I said cash payable at close of escrow?
that's a very professional way of saying it. Yes.
I say
Okay.
cash at COD.
And then I said
Yeah, that's nice.
1.574 million financed via FHA loan,
Perfect.
okay.
Yep.
And does it
So
have?
line 12 would be whatever the down payment is. I mean, sorry.
11 is a down payment.
No, 11 is the earnest money,
Earnest money.
Got a question.
and then 12 would be.
The difference
rest
of the down payment.
Oh, 12 would be down payment.
Yeah.
The rest of the down payment, and the 13 would be the amount financed. Exactly.
Okay,
Would FHA loan go
because
as
I was
down?
thinking
Yeah.
of doing it like this.
FHA loan?
No, FHA, they're
25,000,
That's
because.
a limit?
yeah,
just came
yeah.
into some
No,
money,
no matter
$20
what, once you
million
reach
in
somewhere
cash
like
is
I
gonna
think
be
it's in the
paid,
high
and then
500s right now
financed
is it turns into a
1,575,000.
jumbo loan. and there's no way to get around that. Once you
Must
get
be
to a
nice
certain
to have
amount,
money.
it's a jumbo loan.
Yeah.
Even conventional loans turn into jumbos.
And I read something in Proverbs
Yeah.
yesterday.
Like right now,
or
FHA and
before,
VA, they just,
says it's
or
okay
VA
to
went
have
up.
Okay.
It's in the
Yes,
400s now
yes,
too,
I see.
like high 400s.
Right? Yep.
Yeah, they just went up this year, like
I
in
was gonna
January.
memorize it and quote it.
Okay, so everything makes sense. So 11 would be the down payment no matter what. I mean, the earnest money, okay?
Mhm.
Then 12 is going to be either your down payment at close of escrow, which may pay off the home, or it may just be part of a loan, okay? And then 13 would be the amount financed if there is, or let's break it down if there's a second, you know, if you're doing two sets deposits. Sometimes you'll put $500 down, another $2,000 after inspections, and then you might finance the rest, or you might just pay it off afterward. That's
But
what
those
happens a lot on
three-
commercial.
Those
Yeah.
three need to total 10.
Yep, exactly. That's how you double check your work. You'll always double check your work. 13 plus 12 plus 11 equal 10. Okay? Alright, so 14, you could break it down and you could keep going with other terms, other things, stuff like that, okay? So, number 17, you got your wire transfer or personal check. It really does not matter when you're going to put in the earnest money, okay? So don't really stress over that. Most of the time, you will never have it deposited anywhere with your company. It's always going to go directly to title. Try to do that if possible, okay? Now,
Question.
yes sir.
A lot of title companies, if it's a check, require certified. Bank certified.
Not to open escrow. For closing, always. But to open escrow, you can do it with personal check.
You can't.
You can. It's not preferable, but absolutely. More often than not, they'll come to somebody's work, pick up a check, and they'll just deposit it.
I guess I'm going back to commercial requirements.
Yeah, but definitely at closing, because they can't wait on any of the funds. It has to be certified funds for the close of escrow. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of close of escrow, what is standard timelines?
Usually 45 days, 30 to 45.
30 to 45 days, yeah. 30 is definitely for most people, that's the closer to 30 the better as far as sellers are concerned, you know, unless they're trying to find a new home. As much as 45 would be classified as standard. If you're trying to impress people, usually the quicker the better. So you'll find some people that can close in 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, is there not, I was looking at the calendar, but you actually,
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually look at the calendar and maybe count, because I'm
That's a
gonna
good
do
one.
my best to not
Actually.
have my closing on Friday. If I could
Good
do
one.
Wednesday,
I wasn't
Tuesday,
gonna bring that up,
Wednesday, or
but great point.
Thursday,
Oops,
because
calculator.
then if for whatever reason something happens, you know, I have a couple more days in that week, so
Okay.
that,
In
So
commercial,
let's say
I
all
asked-
things being equal, we put in an offer. No. Okay. So let's say we got the month of February here. Perfect. Okay. So let's say we got our offer accepted.
by the 14th.
Let's just say this week here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's just make it this week. Okay. So let's say we put in an offer today. Okay. What would we put in for the closing?
I'm
March-
gonna probably do March 13th.
Okay. So this will take
So,
us to this week
That
here.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
March 13th.
Okay. So, why wouldn't you want to close on a Monday?
Well, number one, it's because of the weekend.
It's just a busy,
Okay?
busy day.
It's just a very busy day.
Pile up over the
Yeah.
weekend.
And people are so busy, and they're not in their best behavior.
So Friday's okay though, huh?
Okay. Well, what's the
Yeah.
problem with closing on Friday?
It's
If
the
it doesn't
weekend.
close.
If things happen at 5 o'clock
You
at
can-
night, you can't do anything.
And you may have a homeless client over the weekend. That's never ideal.
Yeah.
Okay. And nobody likes having to wait 3 days for a what can be a 12-hour delay potentially. Okay.
So
So-
weekday is best, Monday
Tuesday,
and
Wednesday,
Friday
or
excluded.
Thursday.
Tuesday through Thursday. Those are the best days. Tuesday, in my opinion, is the best because even if you have a delay, you still have a couple days in the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna set it for the 12th.
Perfect.
Okay,
Sounds
so
good.
March 12.
Yep. Now, anything, what standard though, let's say you have a contingency. What's a standard close of escrow time on that one?
Probably 6
If you
weeks.
can, if you're confident in your sales abilities, that would be sweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big guess.
45 to 60 days. If you can get your job, because what does 45 days mean for you? If you're the listing agent and you're helping them buy this home over here,
That gives
45
you
days
time
means
to-
what to you on the listing side?
I'm gonna push for the sale of their home.
But how much time do you have?
That gives me the 45 days, or the 30 days. No. you
No,
said
because chances
45
are they're going to
60.
need to close both homes on the same time, most likely.
Oh,
So
Wow.
how much time do you have? If you give yourself 45 days over here, what does that
45
give you?
days.
That gives you
15
about 2 weeks.
15 days.
About 2 weeks to get it under contract.
oh, okay.
Okay? Because you're going to need about 30 days to close on this home.
Yeah,
So 60 days buys you 30 days, pretty much.
And you're in 2 of those right now?
Yeah. So, yeah, good fun. And they're both simultaneous closings, so they both have to close on the same day, otherwise somebody's going to be homeless.
because what I did for my gal that was selling her home in Montana is that we said her home contingent was on the sale of her home, about closing of that home to take place by this date in order for us to close on this home.
Yep.
Because she needed to be able to transfer funds from here to here, and it gave us, I think, 3 days for her to get here.
Yeah.
But then I had another one where I had to make my closing take place in the morning so that we could finance the home they just bought in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's essentially it. So like right now, and it's imperative that they're with ideally the same title company, makes everything
Yeah.
easier. But yeah, like they will not even stop the funds. Like they're literally going to close on this house and pass straight through title to go to over here. And if all goes well, they'll happen within about an hour and a half to 2 hours of each other. Okay, so it's almost imperative, kind of going back to the loan side, that if you're dealing with somebody here local, that is huge, because if your bank is back in New York, your work day is actually cut off at 1 o'clock or so, you know, for them to be able to fund and process everything. So if you have a local, you actually get the day to be able to accomplish these things. So there's a lot of these little details that add up over time by having the better title company, having a good lender, you know, having everybody knowing and working together. So, okay.
And next week we go into daylight saving time, so it's 3 hours for back east.
Yes, sir.
On line 38,
Yep.
sometime, do we put the, what's it called, the wire form advisory there?
You can. That's where you would put it, yeah.
Okay.
As a brokerage, we don't have one, but a lot of brokerages do. So, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
If they put it up on MLS, like a request for it, I guess.
Any and all extra addenda. So like for example, here we have a pool addendum that we use too. So let's say this house has a pool, you would add the pool addendum, you know. Yeah, anything that's extra outside,
Okay.
you know. A while ago, they didn't have short sale, but because they became so popular, they added short sale. So the short sale addendum is now written in, but we had to write it in for years.
What about, what's it called, those affiliated business disclosure? Do they
You
do
guys cover that. Wow, yeah. You need that for anybody that you guys might have a partnership with, where you guys might get
This
paid or
month, the
reimbursed.
house I did was open door, so they have
Exactly. So, yep, yep.
all this.
Yeah, they use all in-house. They use all. Yeah, there's a lot of potential conflicts. Let's just say that, or disclosures of people getting paid around and stuff. So, yep. Anything you might add, you don't need to necessarily come in after the fact and say addendum 1, addendum 2, addendum 3, but up front, when you're presenting an offer, this is what's included. Okay. Okay, so addendum, make sure you put everything there. Now, here's what, when it comes to fixtures, personal property. Okay, so a lot of buyers will say, but what about this? What about that? Are the blinds included? You know, different things. This is where you break these down, okay? Now, again, coming back to, always make a joke, make it fun, okay? So, can anybody tell me what the general rules are as far as fixtures?
Refrigerator, washer, dryer.
Anything that is attached to
If
the
it's
wall.
attached to, yeah.
Anything you need a screwdriver to.
Exactly. If they gotta unscrew it to take it with them, they shouldn't take it with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? And mentioned that several times, okay? It sticks with them. If they have to unscrew it, take it with them. They're not supposed to take it with them, okay? And then this is where you break that down. If there's any questions or anything like that, right? The one thing you should know is, where is it? Wall-mounted TV brackets hardware, okay? Excluding TVs, okay? They are attached, but they don't count. The brackets are attached to the house, okay? So, speakers, all that stuff. Here's on the, just switch it on the flip side, on the seller side, which we'll kind of talk about next week too, is up front, tell your sellers if they're going to take it with them, remove it first. If the buyers don't even see it, they won't expect it, okay? If they have Bose speakers in their surround sound, just tell them to take them out and leave the wires nicely just capped off. The buyers will only expect wires capped off. They won't even think about Bose speakers. Okay? If there's any, if Grandma made these curtains for us, well, take them down just to be on the safe side. Okay?
Now, it's interesting because it's talking about the stoves, and so it says, when it says affixed,
Yep.
now, for the most part, is it
They are.
because of the piece that goes through
chimney?
No.
the ceiling?
No. Okay.
What if it's a freestanding?
It's not actually. That's, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay.
A pellet stove would be.
What would, okay, safety measures, okay? Oh man, I don't even know how many years ago to actually bring up this example, okay? How many of you recall, like, back in the, like, Saturday Evening Post pictures, right? You saw a little kid standing on a stove looking into the pot where mom was cooking, okay? What prevents that stove from falling over?
Just that thingy.
It's attached to the wall.
Anti-tip
Or at least it's supposed
bracket.
to be, yeah.
Anti-tip bracket, it's attached to the property. It's attached, okay? A built-in microwave is attached, okay? Do many people do lots of people not have the anti-tip bracket? Yes, and that's dangerous and it's not safe, but that's the technicality. That's it right there. It should be affixed. And you have to unscrew it to take it with you.
So the exhaust pipe doesn't make it affixed.
The stove, it can be, but most of them are actually above and could be potentially part of the microwave.
But go to the freestanding fireplaces though.
Like a freestanding like a chimney type thing, or like the electric
no,
ones?
because I'm thinking, like, for example, Aunt Mary and Uncle Rob, they have their fireplace, sitting on their
On the hearth.
on hearth that they created. I mean, it's sitting on the peavers, and then Rob took the chimney part,
yeah.
has that.
Oh yeah, it
So
better be
is
exhausted.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So is that the piece that says it's affixed?
On
and
that,
therefore
it
can't-
would, on a chimney, yeah.
Okay.
A chimney has to be affixed in several places because it has to be properly vented, so therefore that has to be there can't be any breaks between point A and where it leaves on point
And that'd
B.
be the same for the pellet stoves,
Yeah.
because they have to
And
have.
it specifies
Yeah.
stoves,
Yeah.
gas,
Here.
log,
Mhm.
pellet, wood burning.
Yeah,
Affixed.
yeah,
Okay.
but even your standard electric stove oven that you
Yeah.
wouldn't think is affixed that's why.
Okay, alright.
Okay. Yeah.
But why then your washer, your dryer, and your refrigerator then?
Not at all.
Because they're movable.
Completely.
Okay, alright,
Yeah, you can have a built-in fridge, don't get me wrong, but not normally.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay. But why they now have included the description?
Yeah, if you have built-in cabinets and a refrigerator in those cabinets, you take the refrigerator out, there's gonna be a hole in the cabinets, right?
Oh yeah. If you get into like your really nice like Viking appliances and all
And
that
your,
stuff,
what do you call
yeah.
it, the
Jeez.
zero funds one, or whatever
Okay.
that one is.
So, any
Yeah,
other
expensive.
questions on appliances, fixtures? And that's where, be as specific as possible. Representing the buyer in this case, get as specific. You have the description right here. If you can take pictures of it while you're there to actually mark the model number, serial number, just to be on the safe side, perfect. There aren't a lot of shady people out there, but you never want to be surprised by one. Protect your buyer, okay? So, anything you can do as far as description. A lot of people say, seen on premises as of February 12th, 2019. That doesn't say literally anything specific. Good luck proving what you saw that day, okay? So if it's a Samsung, write in Samsung to the best of your ability to fill it out. You know, and that's where if you take a picture of the serial, that's perfect, yeah.
So just taking a picture would stand up in a conflict, but would it be best though to actually put RCA or something and serial number such and such?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's the best way to do
If you can do both, that's perfect. You have
Picture
written
attached.
descriptions and
it. Picture attached.
See photo.
yep, Samsung fridge, pictures attached, you know, whatever it might be. Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes you get lucky and there's actually decent pictures in all this listing too. That's my biggest one, was somebody said that they swapped out the fridge, and my proof was he said that they swapped it out with a non-ice making one that didn't have anything up front. And right there in the MLS listing was the exact same fridge that did not have an ice thing in the front. So it luckily that made it very apparent. He was almost ready to cancel over that. Yeah. So anything you could do to protect that one. Any other personal property that might be involved. All I can say is try not to do that. Okay, we don't dabble in anything other than real estate. Try to avoid personal property at all costs. Put it on them too. Okay, because that's one of the quickest ways to get a commission activated. So try to avoid it. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward on that stuff. Okay, financing, pre-qual form. Pretty much when it comes to presenting the offer, there's really not much to explain other than the big one. Okay, which is what?
On
Is it,
financing?
what's in bold right there?
Yes, the loan
Okay.
contingency and the
It says
unfulfilled loan
no later
contingency.
than 3 days prior to the close of escrow, buyer shall either.
Okay, sign all the documents, deliver seller notice, loan approval, blah blah blah. Receipt of closing disclosures, deliver to seller, close of escrow. Okay, but number 76. This contract shall be canceled, and buyer shall be entitled to return of the earnest money if, after diligent and good faith effort, buyer is unable to obtain loan approval without PTD, okay, and conditions, and deliver notice of inability to obtain loan approval no later than 3 days prior. Okay, so there's a timeline if you're going to cancel. Okay, know that, very important. Okay, if buyer fails to deliver such notice, seller may issue cure notice. Okay, buyer to buyer as required in Section 7A. In the event buyer's breach, seller be entitled to earnest money. Okay, if prior to expiration of any cure period, buyer delivers notice of inability to obtain loan approval, buyer shall be entitled to return of the earnest money. Buyer acknowledges the prepaid items. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, what does that mean? Layman terms.
Well,
Well, if they're not able to, if they're not able to get their loan
Okay.
within this time frame,
Okay.
then it is saying that if they are not able to get the loan at least 3 days prior to the close of escrow, well, but it
There's one
says-
caveat to that.
But if let's see, if buyer fails to
If you're gonna be-
deliver,
This is telling both parties what you're going to do, okay? So the first part doesn't necessarily pertain to the buyer.
Yeah.
The first part pertains to the seller if you're going to want to cure the buyer for not performance. So in other words, 3 days beforehand, okay? And this is what we'll cover next week from the other perspective,
is that why
okay?
we ask the lenders to have it 3 days prior to closing?
You want to know, exactly. So if you want to guarantee you're going to close on time as a seller, you would provide a cure notice no matter what 3 days prior. That guarantees they have to close on said date, or you get to keep their earnest money, basically, unless they provide the other notice, right?
But is
But
this-
that guarantees closing on time with no delays, literally, because if they don't close on time, it's done.
yeah.
You gave the cure notice, done.
But it's interesting that they've had to include this because, again, why you have that pre-qual. But then again, just like Kevin said, if you stay on top of, through the process, and you get that regular status loan status update that says we are still on track,
Yep.
and whether or not I might have to consider the cure notice.
Yeah, but keep in mind we're looking at it from the buyer's side tonight.
Right.
So seller, yes, protection 3 days prior. If you want to guarantee close of escrow or nothing, that's what you do. Okay.
Didn't Kevin say he'd like to have it 5 days?
Yeah.
He likes to get docs there like 10 days in advance if he could. You know, we open escrow, docs are at title. You know, that would be great.
Well, that makes everybody, you know,
Absolutely.
comfortable.
Absolutely. But what is, okay, so let's take it back from the other way, okay? What is the buyer's obligation if you're going to cancel or
If
need to
buyer
cancel?
fails to deliver such notice, it says.
No, that's, again, the prompt for the seller. The seller has to do something if the buyer doesn't do it there. But what does that mean for the buyer? So you
means
keep
that-
reading, because the buyer then has to do what and when.
Okay, let's see, buyer delivers notice of inability to obtain loan approval. Buyer shall be entitled to the return of earnest money.
Okay, so let's say you're 4 days after the close of escrow, and you have not received a cure notice yet. What does that mean?
That
Do
means that your buyer is
keep
gonna
going?
get their earnest money.
It means that you're still going. It means you're not you are technically in breach compared to the offer as stands, but literally speaking,
So is escrow extended then?
the seller cannot just cancel on you.
Okay,
They have to hit you with a cure notice first.
okay.
Okay? So at any moment, even after they provided you that notice, if you provide the lender form saying we had good faith, we attempted, what did it say there? Specifically, the contract shall be canceled and buyer shall be entitled a return of the earnest money if after diligent and good faith effort.
Mhm. That's why you have the LSU.
It just has to be a letter from the lender saying that something happened. We tried. This sucks. As far as the seller is concerned, unfortunately, good luck trying to push suing for performance.
How often does that happen? Because it seems like,
It doesn't happen often because
Yeah.
most people that want
the
to buy a home want
lenders
to buy a
wanna buy a
home.
house, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And the
See,
seller wants to sell too.
the biggest thing is the buyer being scared. The buyer
Okay.
will get scared
Or
and pull
doing-
back for
doing
some
something
reason or
stupid,
another. You
yeah.
find out about an inspection. It doesn't appraise for some reason. The final walkthrough didn't go well. There's lots of reasons buyers will get cold feet. Oh my God, and I hate to say this, but this is where there's no way to prove the other, okay? I hate doing this. Let's say your clients love the home A. They put an offer on home A. It didn't get accepted. They waited, tried to find another home. After another
That was
3
their-
weeks,
A was their first choice.
after 3 weeks, home A never came back to the market. It looked like it was going to close. They put an offer in on another home. They love it. Not as much as this home.
But A comes
But-
back on.
and then all of a sudden A came back to the market.
Isn't this where, isn't this
I'm not going
where-
to say anything else,
Okay.
okay?
The buyer
But I
wants to
think-
back out. Yeah.
I think they can find a reason to cancel
During
B
home inspection.
and then go back to A.
There's a lot of ways
I
and
think
reasons
there's
to,
a way, yeah.
and see, you have to be, I'm not saying I'm just saying it happens. Who are we to deny? My client wants this home. They love this home. But they
But
love
not
this
like-
home first. They want this home more.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well,
They should
Okay.
be willing to give up their deposit.
Okay, well, they can give up the deposit, okay?
Can they?
But
they sue
so
for
let's get into this,
non-performance
well, let's
for
get
any
into these
reason?
different things, because if you're 2 days before closing, absolutely, that's the right thing to do. They should forfeit because they're canceling for no good reason, okay? But during the inspection period, what do you do?
Is that-
Okay, during the CC&Rs, you found out something that it's not as good as this home over here. Let's say the final walkthrough, there's a lot of times that if a buyer needed to cancel,
could
they
be-
can,
Yeah.
okay? Some of them are more justified than others, okay? But worst case scenario, you could cancel 2 days before, and there can be ways to potentially keep the earnest money in. Yeah, not saying, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if push comes to shove, it's very hard to prove, and there's ways to get out. Like the cash deal, for example. It was outside of the inspection period. We were literally 2 days before closing, they finally got the CCNRs from the HOA, and it said in there that they couldn't have an RV visible from the street. Okay, that's almost impossible from any of these houses. They talked to a bunch of the neighbors. The neighbors said, no, they haven't enforced that rule ever. Okay, but the CCNR said so. My clients literally canceled 2 days before closing because of that.
So is the earnest deposit the only thing that could be non-recourse?
See, that is what makes a contract legally binding, is what a person puts up. The seller is putting up the home, okay? The buyers have to put up something. And that's why, as far as the seller's concerned, you want to try to get as high of an earnest money as possible.
Right.
As far as the buyer's concerned, as little as what, because you want to risk.
Right.
Okay, and that's why even in a VA loan, you still have to put up an earnest deposit. Just because you're putting no money down on the home does not mean you don't put up an earnest deposit. You'll get that money back, but without good faith, there's no good faith. You don't have a contract, you don't have a deal at all. You know, it doesn't say it has to be a check. You can put up your 55 Chevy. I can put up these works of art. You know, and that's why it gets held at a neutral company by neutral parties.
So is the 1% down or deposit pretty acceptable?
Unless it's cash, then you typically go up a little bit, you know, because that's it. You know, the next thing is going to be the full amount. So
The 1%
typically,
is pretty typical.
on a loan, absolutely. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
well, if you don't mind going down to line 87.
Yep.
Because when it says then about the loan status update, it says lines 1 through 40. Are they talking about the actual LSU form, or are they talking about this?
Well, right now you're going to find that most lenders are going to send the LSU every week.
So
Okay.
is that the minimum lines 1 through 40 completed of the LSU? Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, the first one is typically pretty much filled out, the prequal, you know, in general, and then the ones that they keep them updated, just we'll show them that it's been through underwriting and different things like that.
All right.
Okay, so the unfulfilled loan contingency, all I'm getting at is the sellers have to go out of their way to cancel on you. And no matter what, you have to get a cure period. During that cure period, your clients will have 3 days to cancel formally if they need be, okay? If you're getting delayed, chances are there was something up with the loan. Almost any lender can provide a letter stating why, you know, just that there were issues, okay? It really sucks. But what's amazing is how often they come up with alternatives. Not, you know, once in a while crap happens that's incurable that we just have to cancel. But oftentimes, like for example, my Yukon, 3 days before, this Asian man, he got me. Oh, he so got me. No, it was Mandy's home. He's like, Josh, my buyers had financing issues. It's like, really? He's like, yeah, man. The FHA just didn't go through. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, so they're gonna pay cash. What? Oh! Oh, he had me. So I was like, really? No, don't tell me this. Don't.
No, I had one where the lender failed to verify proof of income, and so the lady said, well, I guess I'll just have to pay cash. So
It's amazing when lending issues do pop up. They, more often than not, they find a solution. There's a lot of time that temporary financing, like private lending, comes in handy. You know, even if it's just a matter of like, especially if it's only like 6 months, you know, it definitely does the trick for a lot of people. You know, yeah, it sucks having a 9% interest rate for 6 months, but as long as you can refi it, then you're in great shape, you know. There's even better longer term that if people have 10% that they could put down briefly or 20%,
It's about has skin in the game now.
Yeah. So in a pinch, private financing has helped many times. Okay, so as we keep going down, you'll see the appraisal contingency, and that's the big one that is the next thing your clients need to know about. Obviously, concessions, explain that if you're asking for concessions, okay? A lot of buyers don't realize what are concessions.
It's actually money that's gonna go toward, or the buyer,
Yeah, the buyer's asking the seller for what?
to help them with some of their closing
A
costs.
discount.
Yeah,
Sellers don't care what the money goes to. They care that you just asked me for $5,000. Would it make a difference between $5,000 put towards closing costs or $5,000 off the purchase price? To the seller, does it matter? It's all off the net, and when they get their closing check, it's the same thing, right? So what a lot of buyers think that concessions are just part of purchasing, right? Which in a seller's market doesn't go in their favor oftentimes because we're having to beat out other offers. So having that conversation to explain what concessions are. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand you don't want to come with cash out of pocket to the closing table. So instead of asking them for $5,000 off the purchase price, why don't we just have them pay all your closing costs instead? Okay? 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, same thing, but this way they got to keep theirs, they're financing it instead, but so having that conversation with them in general, because a lot of people don't realize that concessions aren't normal.
yeah.
I mean, they
A
think
lot
they
of
are.
People think they are.
Yeah.
And we see it probably more so with the first-time buyers, because,
They don't usually have all of the
they
down
don't
payment or
have,
something.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, by definition, what does the word concession mean? If I'm conceding to you, what am I doing?
One
You're
person
giving
giving
up something.
up part of.
The word itself means I'm giving you something.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's giving up something to someone, you know? So, just, yeah, it sometimes pays to have that one. Okay, appraisal contingency. This is the one that in a lowering market, such as 2007 through, who knows, what, 10, 11-ish, right? While the market was falling, that was how it felt. Homes did not appraise. They just lower and lower and lower. They just didn't, right? So the appraisal contingency helped a lot of people during that time, right? Sellers were pissed. So they were saying that, no, we want you to waive the appraisal contingency. Okay? So if you're having to negotiate stuff within reason, this is something you negotiate out of a deal. Okay? But for the sake of our conversation right now, this is one of the best conversations to have. Okay? How do you convey the appraisal contingency to your buyers to help them feel warm and fuzzy?
By comps that you've previously done, maybe?
Having confidence in the offer definitely helps, right? And that's why we talk about it. This home could be way overpriced, which that's not going to be good. It could be way underpriced, which hopefully it will, okay? But in the context of outside of our hands, this is a protection we have, right? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer,
Expert, but
I know that this is a lot of money, and you're worried about overpaying for this home. That's why we have this. And then how would you explain that to your client? This is one of my favorite
Are we talking
conversations.
about the buyer or the seller now?
We're in this whole conversation we're representing the buyers.
Okay.
well, I try to come at it, with the confidence that the price that we offered and was accepted, that because I did my due diligence and my homework and stuff, I feel fairly confident, that it will appraise.
What if they, okay, see, I throw a
I'm
caveat
trying
in
to
that
think,
one,
okay.
because not always is a seller or a buyer gonna listen to you when it comes to an offer. So sometimes you're gonna offer way less than you want, and sometimes you're gonna end up offering more because the client will offer more. Sometimes it happens. So it's not you per se. You don't have anything to do with the appraisal.
Right.
Okay? So as far as a buyer, what about the appraisal will protect you? And what happens if you have to use that? What's the good news?
What is that?
Okay,
There's
You can get your
what is it,
deposit
cold water, what is that term?
Are you talking Tidewater?
Yeah. No?
That is an aspect, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about here.
Okay.
But it does apply, but that's only on a certain type of buyer.
Oh,
Is the
okay.
buyer mostly concerned about their deposit, or?
Yes. Okay. So, what is the purpose of the appraisal contingency? It will prevent what?
If it doesn't appraised, you get.
You don't have to buy it,
Yeah, loss of the deposit.
right?
that's what it-
If it doesn't appraise, the bank is only going to approve the amount that they approved, right? It doesn't matter if we wanted to offer $350. If the bank only thinks it's $275, they're only going to offer $275, right? So how does that benefit the buyer?
He's or her is protected.
Yeah.
well, his loan is going to be what the house is worth.
If it appraises,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
That's what the house is worth.
The bank agrees. The house is worth that much.
Yeah.
You're protected. If it doesn't appraise, what happens?
They're still protected.
We get to come back and renegotiate if you
Yes.
cancel. Therefore protecting you from what?
Overpaying.
Exactly. That is your overpaying protection. If it appraises, you know you got a good deal. If it doesn't appraise, we get to renegotiate.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now as a buyer, how would that make you feel?
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
more comfortable.
Okay.
Because I had one that we were buying it at $399. It came back and appraised at $365.
There you go.
And because
And
my
that's-
seller was so motivated, they said, I'll sell it to him for $365.
Well, it's
Exactly.
It's an aha moment for the seller too.
Exactly.
So is that why on the pre-qualifier we want to kind of match how much the buyers qualify?
That's another haggling tool on a different side. You never want the sellers to know if your clients can qualify for more. It's not a very good haggling tool. So I always try to match, even if they're qualified for 300, I try to get whatever the actual offer is, because that's all they need to worry about.
Is that the reason why? Because it comes back to the appraisal? Is that why? We want to kind of match like the buying price?
You really, as a buyer, you actually want to beat out the appraisal by as much as possible, okay? The problem is, lenders are so conservative that honestly you could come in with, as an agent, and we know this is $20,000 below average, that home will still appraise for at value or by like $3,000. That's just normal in our world because, and that's the second part that you can even follow it up with. Because of the fall of the market, banks are conservative. Notice we have a crazy market right now, but it's not insane and it's not like outbidding like it was before. Banks are reeling it in and incrementally controlling it to make sure we're not going crazy. So right now, if there ever was a chance to protect your buyer and guarantee them a good deal, it's the appraisal right now. And sometimes they'll actually even go to the flip side, well, I wanted to appraise by a lot. And be like, here's the benefit. Have a third-party appraiser come out, like a refi, afterward, and it will appraise for more. Almost guaranteed.
But this is where it's interesting, especially for Black Canyon City.
Yeah.
You know, and so are you comparing, you know, apples with oranges or apples with apples?
Yeah,
Because
you don't
I'm
have-
still very confident that
Yes,
the home
they're
is
all
going to come
different.
back at what, you know,
In
but
1973, single-wide mobile isn't comparable?
my 2,000, you know,
on the
1,500
same
square
lot.
foot home on 1.5 acres, yes.
Is he being sarcastic?
Yes, he is. But I did have the appraisal today, so I'm anxious to see what it's going to come back.
Okay, so that was the big thing about the appraisal. Does it
Okay.
kind of make sense?
Yeah.
And do you see where
Yeah.
there's a huge benefit to your
Protect-
client
Yes,
on that one?
yes,
So
okay.
the LSU could be understated then? Because the LSU goes to the listing agent as well, right?
That's kind of who it's for, kind of, yeah, to let the other side know. Yeah.
So you're saying it's better if it does appraise for more to come back with less?
Well, but
Well,
let me.
no, we don't really have anything. It's up to it's kind of up to what you're gonna convey or communicate to your buyers, depending on what they're looking for. Because, for example, Kim's client, for example, she put in a low offer, and then when they bid her up, she was almost relying on the home to not appraise. And then when it did appraise, she wanted to cancel because she thought it was a bad deal.
Oh, just opposite.
She thought she was still overpaying. It's like, no, that was the protection. That was the protection.
But
And so we had to come back. Sorry, let me
That's
finish.
okay.
Kim told her that, look, this is the lender. They're the one that's gonna. They're the one
They want-
offering that $100,000, and they are gonna be conservative on their guesstimate because they don't want to get burnt.
So Kim's selling houses, yay.
Oh yeah. So on that one, she is gonna plan on. She wants to try to see if there's a better deal. So that was the clincher on that one, was conveying how conservative the bank was. We really don't do anything. We put the offer in that we think is best, and that's all we do.
Yeah.
You know, it's out of our hands after that. It's, don't ever try to predict. Some of the best homes will loan appraise, and some of the crappiest homes will. You know what?
But it's
Yeah.
interesting what you were saying, Michael, because when the buyer came in with the first offer for my home up there, it was at what they were asking. And then we countered and came back with full asking price. So then they provided an updated LSU that reflected the full offer price of what what the buyer would qualify for.
Yeah. What's the? I know we're running out of time. Man, time flies. Yeah, you got class tomorrow, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. So
Poor thing.
okay. So as much as we can bust through just really fast. When it comes to the appraisal, there's two little caveats that agents should know about. One is what happens with VA and FHA appraisals.
They're good, well, the VA is good for 6 months.
FHA too.
Oh, is it, okay.
Yeah, they stick. So that snapshot in time is actually 6 months.
So sticks with the property.
For 6 months.
So next home buyer.
Yep. The only way of getting out of it is a conventional loan or cash. Okay. If it's a VA, they won't even do another one. It's like, here you go. This was the appraisal. And
So that sets a precedent.
Yep. Okay. So know about that. And then next, if it doesn't appraise, what options do you have?
Well, like you said,
Renegotiate.
you can renegotiate.
More often than not, the sellers will probably accept that lower amount.
Yeah.
Okay. But what other options do you have? There's basically two more.
Cancel?
Where,
You cancel.
where, you could cancel, but where
If
the
the sellers
seller
don't
and the
accept that
buyer.
lower amount,
Okay.
the buyers can. It's in the buyer's hands at that moment. If the sellers can do whatever they're going to do, accept, not accept, or whatever. But the buyers are never stuck. We can cancel, and if they don't, you get your money back and move on.
Or, depending on if they really want that home, it compromise with the seller and the
Exactly.
buyer. So maybe they might say, all right, well, we're
We're bringing
willing to,
so much
yeah,
cash,
and
yeah.
then we'll.
I'll pay $1,000 more. You know, you say it came in $5,000 low. You can meet in the middle. The buyer can pay $1,000 more. It's up to the buyer if they want to pay more. You know, it's up to a cash buyer if they want to pay $500,000 for a
They
$200,000
just have to bring
home.
more.
They can.
Yeah.
They have to bring more cash to the table for closing.
They just have to pay the difference. Exactly. Yep.
So if it appraised low, the seller's willing to accept that, can the buyer still cancel?
If the sellers, let's say it doesn't appraise, and the sellers say, nope, we want the full amount. The buyers say, we're not going to pay it. We want our money back.
Okay.
That would happen. The sellers can say, okay, we'll accept the lower amount. We'll move forward. Write an addendum. You move forward. And then if they negotiate anything in the middle, you just write an addendum saying the buyer will pay $1,000 more than the appraised value, or the new purchase value is $275, with the buyer paying $1,000 extra credit at closing, whatever it might be.
But my question is, if the seller accepts the lower price, but let's say if the buyer wants to back out, I guess, can they?
At that point, not necessarily. If it appraises that way,
It
that
doesn't appraise.
well, if it doesn't appraise,
Right.
and you're saying the buyer, then the
Just
sellers,
back out, I
yeah,
guess.
the buyers can just back out.
Exactly.
The moment it doesn't appraise, you don't even need to give the sellers a chance to come back. Technically speaking,
Okay.
And
dang,
this is
wasn't a
why
good
it
deal, we'll
says,
cancel.
buyer
The buyers
has
will
5
probably
days.
come back, or the
Yeah.
sellers will probably chase you down, and say, no, we'll accept it. You know,
But it says buyer has 5 days after notice of appraisal value to cancel this contract.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And receive a refund.
basically it goes into renegotiations at that moment.
Okay, but they
Exactly.
spend all the money already.
Yeah.
They pay for the appraisal. Yeah.
Yeah.
They won't get that back. The appraisal and the inspections, you won't get that back. Okay, so any other things about appraisals? Covered? Good.
The one thing maybe about appraisals is that, you know, we no longer have the ability to choose. They are done with.
We never had the ability to choose, really.
No.
It was always done, that was always supposed to be that. The banks and a lot of people had connections with people, like, we use this company. And by default, you keep getting the same people.
What about those like brand new houses? Do they always get appraised? I guess.
Back in the day, they didn't. During the fall, that was part of the problem, and why so many of them went, but right now, that's not a problem. They are the anomaly, okay? They don't adhere to normal rules, and they don't have normal appraisals. It's done based on the community, based on the finished value, based on the value of what it takes to build that home, basically like replacement cost. Yeah, it's weird. Okay, so you got your title company, which as a buyer, all things being equal, you should choose, okay? And if they counter back, fight. The only time you need to yield is honestly if it's a dual escrow or a simultaneous escrow, because it's very important for whichever party is doing it that it goes smoothly and closes on time.
Mm-hmm. Although if I as the seller's agent can share with the buyer's agent the pros and cons and a win-win by using this title company, a lot of times they don't mind going with your.
Yeah, if you could give them investor rates and things like that.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think the buyer's agent, for most part, has a lot of persuasion to convince the buyer that this is a good agent. You know.
Yep. Absolutely.
But like you said, and it could be a win-win situation for both of the other, you know.
Yeah.
But I've negotiated with my title company to give me discounts for multiple.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we can find some incentive to the sellers, it helps a lot. Like this last one, they wanted to use a company that this buyer's agent and I both did not like, and so even though he had a different person, it was still my same company, Security Title, different person, that he convinced them to go away from this other company. So before we had even come into the picture, he had already done a huge battle to get away from this bad company. And so when it came to that one, I didn't push so hard, because as long as it was with my company, and I talked to my agent who said, no, that's a good agent over here, and she vouched for her, I was like, okay, we could deal with that.
The other thing I pitch
Anything
is
but that other company.
that not all title companies are title companies, they're agencies.
Yep. Yeah.
And the policy is not written by them, the policy is written by a third party.
Yeah.
So I always try to go with a title company, not an agency.
Yeah. As long as it's one of like, for example, Security. They're one of the top 3, I guess you can say, and they're actually owned, what is it, by Fidelity, I think it is. And Fidelity actually owns like a bunch of them. I found that they are more affordable, they're all over the place, and we've been able to get a lot. It's really worked out well. So I kind of, I gave up trying to figure out the difference, because like in California you have your escrow company and your title company, 2 different ones, and you're actually paying 2 separate fees, and you know, when you get into that world, it makes sense that they are 2 different companies, 2 different things, and you got to know what that is. Here in Arizona, at this point, it doesn't make that big of a difference. You're not really paying that much in price, you're not paying any big difference, and most people don't even know the difference.
No, they don't.
And so the big thing is, as long as you're paying fair rates, and you actually know how to read the title report to make sure there are no clouds on the title, that's important. You know, but beyond that, it doesn't mean as much. Like, just in the time between like 2008 and 10, I saw a big difference on that. You know, so
One of the big reasons why it's buyer's choice is because of the title insurance.
Absolutely, $700 or so. You know, yeah. Okay, so now let's get into the disclosures. All right. So here's another part that it really helps to know how to help your clients go through. So during that 10-day inspection period, that's their due diligence, right? And within like 48 hours of the sellers accepting their contract, they're supposed to start providing you with things, okay? So right off the bat, and a good listing agent will have it right there in the MLS, the SPUDs, Seller Property Disclosure Statement, okay? Now, this is an important document, absolutely. But here's the big thing. Are sellers experts?
Nope.
No.
Based on, to the best of their knowledge.
Exactly. Okay, the biggest thing that I find with this is, number one, some people are great and will document everything and have a great history. Wonderful. Other people are normal, but they fill out the bigger stuff, but they may not know everything. Okay? That's what I expect. I don't expect sellers to be experts on stuff. On the flip side, if you think, wow, you've lived in this house for 10 years and you've never had an issue with a toilet, you've never had to replace a water heater, you didn't have an AC issue, then I start getting a little fishy because they're not disclosing stuff. Or they are that type of owner that's going to try to avoid doing stuff. So rather than seeing what's on it and taking it, oh my gosh, this is that, you know, Fred, the AC went out on our building. Can you please go up there and fix it?
I don't think so.
You're not an AC guy?
Nope.
But you've owned homes?
I'm
Lots
not
of
an
them.
air conditioner.
You know, we're not AC guys. Okay, this electrical outlet went out. Can you please replace it? No, may or may not. Okay, on the flip side, Dad. Okay, is Dad competent at replacing an outlet?
Yes, he is.
Is he an electrician?
No.
No, but is he competent at doing it? Exactly, okay? So over the course of 10, 15 years, is Dad going to remember every single outlet he replaced?
No.
Okay? So we take it as what it is, okay? Don't hold people to this whole standard like, oh my gosh, or this is that. Have them look at it and review it. What is the big thing we're going to have done that is an expert hired by us who is a professional that is hopefully going to let us know if anything's serious about the house?
The inspector.
The inspector. Between the spuds, the insurance claims history, and your home inspection, plus your buyer's advisory, add it all up, that is a good history. Okay? So that's the big thing. Insurance claims. Okay? If they have had claims, that's
Yeah, sure.
That's
That
why
will
we
tell
get
you.
a clue, yeah.
yeah, that was some serious, whatever it was, you know, roof damage, whatever it might have been, big storm, you know. There's a lot of putting stuff in perspective is key. Okay, if you've lived in a home for 10 years, what's the chance of a toilet backing up?
Absolutely. Especially out there.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, right? A home that's 15 years old will have a water heater go more than likely. Okay, when water heaters go, how often are they kind enough to go nicely?
No. But it's the same with your AC. When you
Yeah,
hit that
AC.
10-year mark,
Yep.
you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the flip side, some of them go 20 years, but
Yeah,
yeah, once you
but
get 10,
you
15
should-
years,
Yeah.
so that's when the inspector will come in.
Okay, on the SPDS,
Yeah.
that's usually provided by the listing agent of the home.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what if it's not 100% answered? Suppose they didn't answer.
See, and that's what I'm getting at, is how badly do you want to push, right? If you think people are neglecting their duties, which sometimes they do, we have lots of owners that don't want to fill out anything. I mean, what, you don't want to fill out this 400 questionnaire, really?
But then
You know,
just
but they
say
have to,
unknown
okay?
or
So,
sure
exactly.
or
I just
to
recently
discuss.
sold a home in Maricopa with a single older woman who was not able to answer a lot of them. What was she supposed to do? Lie? You know, guess?
Do you remember when there was a third column in the spuds? You had yes, no, and don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And then more often than not, don't know. Yeah. And Dad, on the flip side, yes. He just said yes to everything. Have you had roof damage? Yes. Have you had bathroom damage? Yes. Have you had plumbing damage? Yes. I mean, just like straight down.
Please explain. Please explain.
Okay, so that's exactly it. Spuds are spuds. Sellers are sellers. Take it for what they are. Okay, definitely read it. Definitely factor it in. If you think they're hiding stuff, like we walked in here, there's water damage, but they didn't disclose water damage. There you go. Ask them about it. Bring that up. That could be a sign of them being shady people. That could be a sign I'm just an older person. Which one is it? You know, I'm a single younger person. I've only owned this home for 2 years. I'm not handy at all. I don't know anything. You know, that's another case. So just take the spuds and take everything, but just don't put too much weight. I've had, just historically speaking, both sides. I've had people that, a flipper still owns the home, still can provide you history, still can tell you about
But
it.
he's never lived there.
He's never lived there,
Yeah.
but
But that's why you have the
yeah.
inspection.
What about an investor that has owned a home for 10 years but has never lived in it? You still need to provide, you probably changed AC, you probably did some stuff. These things, just because you didn't live in the home doesn't mean poop. It just means that that's your perspective on this home, right? So, okay, so hold people to it. Make sure they provide. Even a bank-owned home, they still owned the home, okay? They still have they can provide you history.
What if they ask you to waive that?
That's what I'm saying. Fight back. Okay? They don't want to, and they'll give you excuses, but fire back. Because
You want to protect.
yeah. Even if it's not necessarily filled out like all the way, I just provide something. There's no reason to seller property disclosure statement. It doesn't say occupant disclosure statement. It doesn't say non-investor disclosure statement. It's the sellers. They know what they know. That's it. So and everybody knows something. I've owned this home for 4 months. I've had nothing go wrong, and we fixed this, this, and this in the flip. There you go. That's it. You know.
Just a statement, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So lead-based paint at this point, 1978. It's so far away. I would always check 173. Okay, on this one, just to let people know, because there's no need for anybody to do anything extra unless you really have younger kids that you think they might eat lead-based paint or might pick paint chips. But like, for example, in the last 20 years, how many times do you think this building's been painted? Exactly. The further and further we get from 1978, the less likely lead-based paint is going to be an issue. Really, okay?
So do they figure new paint encapsulates the old paint?
Yep.
Huh?
Absolutely. So that's that. So I wouldn't do anything other than 173. I've never once checked 175. Okay? Never made the sellers disclose and provide any information on lead-based paint. So just make everybody's life easier unless it really is a concern. Then please do the other. Okay? Now, pretty much the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. So when you're talking to people, mention the lead-based paint, same thing that I just mentioned. Now as you're going through, affidavit of disclosure doesn't really apply to a lot of places other than, you know, for example, Black Canyon City, technically, affidavit of disclosure. Okay, that's one of the random ones. Do you know what that is?
Unincorporated areas.
Yeah. Okay, there are a few of those around. So just be aware that would be one of those other addenda we would have to add in that little, if it is. Okay? So as we come to warranties, this is where we get into the stuff that I really wanted to point out before we ran out of time, and the stinks that we did. Okay? Anything that's in all caps, this is when we start getting into the nitty-gritty, and you definitely want to explain to your clients. Okay? So when it comes down to the due diligence period, that's huge. Okay? Due diligence. This is when, as your buyers are concerned, this is their time. Risk-free, basically. Anything they find out during this 10 days, we can cancel. If there ever was please do anything you want to find out, let's do it now, because we can cancel no problem, you know? And have them go into it with that thing. Let's do this. We're praying everything's going to be good, but we can cancel. So you try to get your inspection done as soon as possible. That way, let's say you think, oh crud, he came out and found that there's AC issues. Well, now we still have 3 days to bring an AC unit guy out to double check what may be needed to put that on the Binzer. We found out there might have been conditions conducive to mold. Let's bring out a mold expert just to be on the safe side. So try to get your stuff done ASAP. Your clients feel good too, right? And kind of getting back to what we were talking about, until you get through the process, this is our stressful time, because what if we forget timelines? What if something goes wrong? What if it goes haywire? Blah, blah, blah. Okay? So if you get your inspection done after the second day and it came back good, can you respond by the 4th day if your clients want?
You can.
You can. If they love it and they're happy, let's do it. If they know everything's good and they just want to ask for these couple small repairs, do it. You're done early, and that's the earlier the lender can get going, all this other stuff.
So we should fill out the Binzer as early as possible, maybe.
Don't push by any means, but if they're comfortable, there's no rule saying you have to wait 10 days. No. you know? But when they respond on the Binzer, that's the end. So
Yeah.
just make sure they know that they're comfortable ending their inspection period, okay? But during that time, this room, I don't like these windows, man. They're not going to provide enough light. Cancel. You know?
Not reason, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's basically anything you can do, okay? So the bigger items obviously are highlighted. So square feet. What if the home is 2,000 square feet and you thought it was 2,500 square feet? Oh, that's a significant difference. It does happen sometimes. On older homes, not documented sizes, you know, with additions and things like that.
Does car garages included?
Nope.
It's not.
Livable square feet, livable space. Yeah. Okay, so wood destroying organisms. This is another buyer protection, okay? But this is going from the other way. What do people think of with termites? Most people that aren't from Arizona, that haven't purchased a home before, they think termites bad, destroy homes, eat wood. My home may fall down. What are the termites here in Arizona for the most part? They feed off of what? Paper mainly. Yeah. Right? They love the drywall. It's made of paper. It would take a big termite issue, years, to do structural damage. It's a pest as far as we are concerned here in Arizona. If we were in Washington, different story. You know, Michigan, whatnot, different termites. Flat out, literally different termites.
Drive careful.
Have fun, get some sleep.
I will.
So,
What's that?
that's another one that people are scared about, but we can put them at ease. Same thing with scorpions, right? I'm not saying we don't have scorpions, but what's the difference between most houses and a scorpion bed?
I've never seen a scorpion bed. I've seen scorpions, but I've never seen a scorpion
Uh,
bed.
If you will know when you show a home on a scorpion bed, okay? Homes get critters. Every home has the potential to get a critter, which means you may or may not get spiders, roaches, ants, scorpions, snakes. I mean, there's all kinds of critters that happen, right? As long as you spray and keep your home good, most critters and pests will leave you alone, okay? Same thing with scorpions. For the most part, they're like that given a normal home. On a scorpion bed, if you go into a home, it's not uncommon you'll see 15, 20 scorpions in one home, in one little walkthrough.
Wow.
You'll walk in one room, there'll be some in the corner, there'll be one on the floor, there'll be some, I mean, they're all over the place. Seriously, you get the ickies. Seriously, okay? That's my rule that I will protect buyers with. If we do happen to find a home on a scorpion bed, it's up to you if you want to live there, because chances are you're going to move before the scorpions do. I flat out tell them that. I've had one person knowingly buy a home in a scorpion bed. And you should have seen, we opened, asked Steve, our home inspector, he still remembers this house. Pulled up the little thing in the sink, you know, the book. There were probably 7 or 8 scorpions just there. In the shower, in the drain, there were 5 or 6 scorpions. He was messing with them. I mean, there was not one room, not one space that didn't have several scorpions in it. And they lived there for years, never had one issue. They loved it. But that was the most uncomfortable inspection I've ever had. Oh, jeez. So, okay. So, pests, okay? So, wood destroying organisms, that's another one. A lot of people are scared about that. We can make them feel good because it's not going to be a serious issue. Budget Brothers, what, $350, $400, get it taken care of, has warranty, good to go. Okay? Flood, not much, not many areas. There are certain flood hazards, but for the most part of the valley, it's 50-year floods, 100-year floods. There's a couple 1,000-year flood areas.
Well, we have maps for that, right?
Absolutely. But really not much here. I mean, if you're back to a wash or certain other areas, you know, that type of thing. So, homeowners insurance, they get provided, right? So that shouldn't be an issue. If you do see that they had big issues, it's right there. We feel good, okay? So let's move on down to the big black area, 6H, okay? Buyer acknowledgement. Buyer recognizes, acknowledges, agree that the brokers are not qualified nor licensed to conduct due diligence. We love this. With respect to the premises or surrounding area. Okay, which means what?
You need to get a qualified person to do whatever they need to do.
We're experts in the process. I don't know this house. I might be a specialist in this area, but this wasn't my home. I never lived here. I can't tell you the condition of this home or anything. I will help you find the right home, and I will help you complete the purchase of that home. The process, that's what we do. Anything outside the process, we're gonna get asked, what plant is this? I don't know. You know, do you know what builder this is? Yeah, it was Pulte. It says right here. Well, but I never lived here. You know what I mean?
Okay. So let's say if the pool doesn't have a fence, how do we tell do we just give them the pool safety notice?
Do they have kids?
Let's say they have kids, I guess.
Okay.
Let's say they have
It's entirely different. If it's an adult buying a home, it's entirely up to them and the liabilities involved with what safety issues they want to put on there. In Peoria, for example, they're pretty strict, right? So there's different barrier rules that you may or may not have to make happen if there are kids and loans involved in certain areas. For example, like you don't necessarily have to put a full fence up, but you have to make sure that the windows and doors latch, self-latch, and do different things like that. Make sure that the gates are locked, you know, self-closing on the outside. Make sure all that stuff adheres, which those are pretty affordable. Much more affordable than putting a fence around the entire pool. So when it comes to actual, make sure you do specify any home with a pool, you do give them the pool barrier law so they're aware of it and help them start doing that stuff up front. But every buyer's a little bit different. You know, if it's an older couple, they don't care, you know, and it may or may not be required in a conventional loan in that case. In an FHA loan with kids, completely different story, right?
So having kids or not having kids is a major issue.
And types of loans, if it's cash deal, nobody cares.
Okay.
If
How about
nobody cares, nobody cares.
How about
Nobody's
the
going to check it
kids?
out. It's up to them. But you know,
So if it's a FHA loan, then it may be an issue.
FHA loan, like
If-
especially
if
in
the
Peoria,
buyer has kids.
there's a really good chance it'll get called out. It's really up to the lender and their person going out. Sometimes you get called out on things that you wouldn't get called out on other homes with. It's really hard to say. But as a whole, if there's a pool and there's a loan, it's pretty good chance something will get called out. I mean, on that level, especially if it's a government-backed loan and if there's kids involved.
Okay.
Are they concerned about the kids on the street or just the kids in the home?
Both. That's why even the gates have to be self-closing. Yeah. If somebody jumps over your fence, that's up to them. If somebody's allowed to open your fence and come in, that's your bad.
So, what's my question? I forgot what my question was. Never mind.
Okay, well, if you remember, just holler it out. Yeah, let's kind of buzz through this because we just have a couple more sections. These are the things that you want to make sure that your clients know about you because this is your CYA, okay? So, not conducted, scope of the broker's expertise and licensing, okay? Buyer expressly releases and holds harmless broker from liability for any defects or conditions that could have been discovered by inspection or investigation. They need to hire the experts, flat out, okay? And if they don't, that's why we have our CYA, okay? And it flat out says that you're not an electrician. You're not anything else. And what's great about this is that as we go through, okay? So as you go through the inspection period, you ask for repairs, come back and forth, and eventually you could always cancel at any moment. If they don't agree, if you can't agree, the buyer can cancel, okay? The big thing you do want to know is, that you do want to tell them is 287, okay? We do not ever miss a timeline. If they don't know, if they don't answer, a lot of people think, well, I have time, well, I didn't get back to them. No, no, no. If they don't answer, they accept it, okay? That's the one thing the buyer has to know is that if you don't respond, you're proceeding.
5 days?
Yep. Well, what do you mean?
If they don't respond, you have 5 days to cancel.
Well, you have your 10-day inspection period or whatever day you specify, so this goes with that, and then
don't
proceed in the
respond.
5 days back and forth afterward. Exactly, yep. Okay, so if
Even response to the bins are,
exactly, yep. So exactly, if you're, if the sellers say we'll repair half of what you wanted us to, if you don't respond, you accepted their, whatever they said.
I remember what my question was.
Yeah.
So let's say if it's a loan and the lender can request the buyer to build a fence around the pool, could they?
They can't require that.
Oh, they can.
No, it has to meet barrier guidelines, which are the other things, which are the self-latching stuff. They can ask for it, but they can't require somebody to put up a fence per se.
taken elsewhere and the seller can say, I'm
It's-
not gonna
it's-
do anything?
More often than not, when it comes to the pool stuff, it's not a seller, it's the lender requiring for guidelines.
I think
Okay.
even a cover on the pool was a barrier.
In some cases, yeah, it has to be a certain type and netting. And
Strength.
yeah. But usually it's protecting from the outside, so as long as the windows, doors, gates, all of that latch properly and lock properly so people under the height of 5 feet or whatever it is can't get to it, that meets most regulations, and which bypasses us from having to do a fence. Okay? More often than not, you're gonna have two parties who don't like what the lender's making them do, and they will work together trying to get it done for the sake of the sale. Okay? Once in a while you'll have an owner that's like, my kids are, and then, but that's up to that. But more often than not, most people don't bring up pools because if you have a pool, you're gonna do what you want with it, Yeah. Okay. Okay, so don't give notice, you're accepting, okay? The next part is your final walkthrough, okay? So your 10-day inspection period, we kind of walk through the disclosures, all that stuff, your 10 days, risk-free, boom, max it. Due diligence, same thing, okay? CC&Rs, that's the next part, right? Just like we talked about with that one owner, but that's outside of your inspection period. Has nothing to do with your inspection period and the 10 days, 7 days, whatever it is you guys agree to, has nothing to do with that. CC&Rs are the HOA sending, or the neighborhood, because it's not necessarily HOA. Even homes without HOAs have CC&Rs, okay? So it's up to them to review those CC&Rs, and the buyer has 5 days no matter what, okay? If he gets it on the first day, it's done before your inspection period is. If they take 2 weeks to get that information to you, so be it. That's what happened and why my clients canceled last time, because it was like a 3-week closing and it took them like it took them a ridiculous amount of time. I think it took them like 2 weeks to get them the documents, and so that's what led to 2 days before closing, because it was a quick cash deal. So, but that was their rightful duty. They didn't close last minute for no reason. They got information in the CC&Rs that they weren't happy with, so we rightfully were able to close and get their earnest money back. Okay? But that's where it's like, it's hard to say, so I don't want to, all I'm going to throw out there is that as agents, I'm not going to say right or wrong, but it's up to you to try to use the contract to the benefit of your client. Okay? If you could save them earnest money, try to save them their earnest money. I'm not going to make that judgment or moral call on how you do it or what is the right or wrong situation. If I'm your broker and you want to talk to me, great, we'll talk that. But right now, there's a lot of ways and times that you're going to use these outs for different reasons, hopefully to protect your client for the right reasons, okay? Like, there's a lot of things in the HOA, home-based businesses, plants, cars, kids, noise. I mean, there's a lot of things inside. So there's a lot of reasons why during that time you might cancel if you're catching my drift, okay? If you're a seller, you represent the sellers. If you're a buyer, you represent the buyer. Know how to use the contract to the benefit of the buyer. If you're a seller, know how to use the contract to the benefit of the seller. Get what I'm saying? Okay? So, last part is the cure period. Again, cure period is great because that's when anybody who's a breach, that's what they have. So as far as your buyer goes, if you want to close on time, what's the best way to close on time? No matter what, hit them with a cure period 3 days before closing. And the sellers have to perform, okay? If they didn't make their repairs on time, make sure you hit them with a cure period, to make sure you're closing on time. And that's the benefit of the pre-walkthrough, final walkthrough. You could do your final walkthrough right the day of closing, but what if you find something? You're going to be delayed. Do a pre-walkthrough 3 or 4 days prior and make sure everything's good. That way you can hit them with the breach or the cure beforehand and close on time. Okay? Now, right here, this is what I love to tell people, okay? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Fortunately, as a buyer's agent, very rarely do things go wrong. But as buyer representation, it's good to know we have guidelines in case things do. So let's say the sellers agree that they're going to make some repairs and for some reason they didn't complete them on time. This is what we do, okay? We'll hit them with a cure period, they have time to fix it. If not, then they're officially in breach. And then from there, if things don't get fixed, then this is where things get wonky, but they end up in court, yada, yada, yada. But this is the process. Luckily, Very rarely does this ever happen. In my years of experience, I've never had to go beyond a breach of contract ever. But worst case scenario, there are processes in place that protect both parties, okay?
How about the 3 days? That seems like not enough in some cases.
Well,
So can the buyer extend the cure period?
the cure period is when it kind of is just the penalty, right? You didn't do something you were supposed to do, so you have 3 days to fix it. More often than not, they should be able to. But if it is something even bigger, that's where hopefully you would have factored that in because of whatever it was. Let's say they were supposed to do the like a curing of something like concrete, or let's say like a roof repair. Like they redid the roof and it had to settle for, was it 2 or 3 weeks for it to make sure everything's good, right? Well, what do you do in cases like that? Well, hit them with the cure period early to make sure. But unfortunately, if it's not done until X day, there's not much you can do. You know what I mean? So try to factor in the timelines if possible.
So would we fill out an additional terms and conditions specifying the line item and changing it?
If that's the case, yeah. You in the cure period, you actually specify what was wrong, and you could actually change the timelines if need be. Yeah, like.
Would we use this or an addendum?
This just spells out what the cure. There's an actual cure addendum. There's a cure
okay.
notice, actually. Yeah.
And that's
So-
a zip form?
Question. So let's say if the buyer wants the roof to be fixed, in the offer you would maybe put in 45 days or 50 days to close, I guess, because since the roof maybe needs some time to fix.
In cases such as that, it spells out right in there that they're supposed to have all repairs done no less than 3 days in advance. Okay, so they're expected to have it done with it. So yeah, if the work needs extended periods of time, then you need to work it in, obviously. But no matter what it is, it says in the contract, all work is supposed to be done no less than 3 days before closing. I think it's 3 days. It may be 5, but I'm almost positive it's 3.
Okay.
Okay? So, yeah, plan accordingly. Okay, so next up, in additional terms and conditions, this one you definitely want to put something in there. You never want somebody to come in behind you and be able to write stuff in the contract. Okay? So put something there. NA, none, whatever it might be. Okay?
Cross it out.
Whatever it might be, just so nobody can change a contract. Alright? Because who's to say, right? That way it needs initials and people just know. Alright, so then coming through page 9, I just go through and I say, look guys, this is all the details, these are the definitions, how we calculate timelines. Obviously we're in Arizona, so we use Arizona law. These are all the details, right? What's something unique that you could kind of tell people that would let them know that you know the contract, but doesn't really specify anything important?
Days, that's very important because a lot of people think
How do you
it's-
calculate? Business days versus not. Exactly.
Yeah.
We go off of calendar days.
Yeah.
That's where it specifies it. That's the one I use. Exactly. Just so you know, we don't go off of business days. Real estate doesn't sleep. We go off of calendar days. You know? And look at the timelines. 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Okay, so that's exactly the one because it doesn't affect them, but it just lets them know that these are definitions and how we calculate stuff. Okay, perfect, right? Okay, then right there at the bottom, this is the next part, and this is even better than the first one. The first one says what? We're not qualified to do due diligence, and we're not qualified to do other stuff outside of our scope of expertise. What does 8N specify in particular?
We are not responsible for any.
Release and hold harmless.
For financing, the condition, square footage, lot lines, boundaries, values, rent rolls, environmental problems, sanitation, roof, wood infestation, building codes, government regulations, insurance, price, terms of sale, return on investment, or any other matter relating to the value or condition of the premises. The parties understand you agree that the brokers do not provide advice on property as an investment and are not qualified to provide financial, legal, or tax advice regarding this real estate transaction.
You're glad that's in there, right?
Heck yeah! Why?
You're the broker.
And you, the agent, you guys represent the brokers. We aren't the experts on any of that stuff. I'm not a sanitation person. I'm not the
That is
lender.
a
I'm not the
real
escrow
good
person.
CYA there.
Exactly, right? And so this one, I make sure to talk about, but I make a joke. It's like, I'm your agent. I'm not the expert. You're the person, what? You're the expert that knows the experts, right? I'm the expert in the real estate process. That's it. I know expert electricians. I know expert inspectors. I know expert AC people. I know expert, they are those experts. That's who we'll call on. You have an AC question? I recommend you call this guy. You know,
Give a reference and that's it. One or two or three references.
we're the people that put them in contact with the experts. I missaid it earlier. We're not the experts. We put them in contact with the experts.
I got a question. The lead-based paint may not be signed in counterpart. What does that mean? I guess.
I'll ask to be filled out on one. Technically speaking, if you take one form that's filled out by, let's say, Bob, okay, and who's this seller, let's just say, and then you have the same form that's filled out by Bob, the buyer, over here. It's not together, but they filled out the same okay? So there's two copies. One guy filled out this one guy filled out this one. If you put them together, you have the filled out copy. That would be in counterpart, okay? It has to be filled out together. You'll see on the lead-based paint addendum, it has to be filled out by everybody, including you.
Right.
That one form has to have everyone's signatures on it. It can't be sellers on this form, buyers on this form. It's the same form, so we're on the same page. No, it has to be everybody on that one form.
Now, the seller have to sign first, right?
It honestly doesn't matter who signs first. It's going to have to be filled out and all. The seller should fill it out, yes.
Okay.
It should be provided by them. But a good buyer's agent will just include it with the offer, just to be on the safe side. If it's not there.
Yeah,
It's not a big deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the last one there that you definitely want to bring up to your clients, because that is the CYA, and let them know that I facilitate this transaction. I don't know if there's foundation issues on this home, but guess what? We have the experts to find out. You know, so keep going through that, okay? And then in terms of acceptance, what's normal?
5 business days?
Ooh, no, that's way too long. On
24
commercial,
hours?
you might want to give people that much.
24 hours? 24 hours?
24 on a typical transaction, absolutely.
24
okay?
hours?
Yep. If I'm giving it to you at 5 o'clock today, I'm going to give you, I want to answer back by 5 o'clock tomorrow. Okay? Now beyond that, this is just a purchase contract. No matter what, in this current market where we're at, there are a couple other addendums that you have to put with it to make sure it's good. Okay, so what are those really fast?
Joey?
If there is one, which is a lot, but that's not mandatory, but yeah, if there is an HOA, what? Okay? But on every single offer, no matter what, not including addendums, these are what you're going to include on every single offer. You have your purchase contract, okay?
Pre-quality?
You want to make, what was that?
Pre-quality?
That is, but that's not part of the offer, technically. You want
Buyer
to,
advisory?
because you could be paying cash, for example. So it's something that applies on every offer, no matter what.
Buyer advisory.
That is, but it's not. You guys you're so close. Sorry.
Oh,
The buyer's advisory is part of their due diligence period, right? But you don't give that to the sellers with the offer. Okay. So on every single offer, no matter what, you're going to include these documents every time. The purchase contract. But don't you want the sellers to know you represent the buyer? So what is that?
For the agency?
Agency. Absolutely. Yep, that's it. Exactly. Yep. Okay. What's the other one? And thank you to okay, that's all. Yes, perfect. Mold. CYA. Mold. It doesn't say there is or isn't, but it lets the buyer know that mold can be fatal. Take it seriously. If during your inspections you find out anything that there are conditions to mold, that there is mold, take it seriously. That's what that is. So yes, absolutely. And then one more. And you can thank the fall of the market for this one.
Oh, the market advisory.
Market conditions. Exactly. Yep. And what does that simply state? Yep. And as an agent and their representation, all we can do is make the best decision based on today. Market can tank tomorrow, but it could also go up. And that's it. How was it?
Good class.
Yeah, sorry I went over, guys. That was a lot of information.